Hi, so we're gonna do something really quick and hopefully this live goes well. I tried to do things in stages so that it would be easy to follow along, but we're gonna fancy up some drawer sides, which is one of my most favorite things to do, and it actually sells things a lot faster than if you don't have it. So to get started, we are going to need some tissue paper of your choice. I do tissue paper on drawer sides most frequently because it's so thin and it lets the drawers still slide in and out. You don't want to do it on any tight sticking drawers. It won't work. It'll just rip the tissue paper off. So you do want to make sure that you have a little room in your drawers to make sure that you won't ruin your design and that they'll still slide nicely. Then tissue paper is very thin, so whatever is underneath the tissue paper is going to show through. So this is a like medium toned wood. I'm going to give it a light coat of paint. So here I've just got my chalk mountain in white because the background of this paper is white. You could use a purple or whatever color that you think will complement the paper. I want the flowers and everything to pop, so I'm gonna stick with white. And we're just gonna paint it on here. Wow. Hi, husband. Okay, you can kind of see that. So since I only need a thin bit of paint, I'm just going to spray it with water. I'm not too worried about getting full coverage here. It's just to prevent the background of the tissue paper from turning brown, essentially. Now, if you want brown, feel free to leave it. If you did like a dark colored tissue paper, say like a dark floral with maybe a blue background, you would want to paint this like a dark blue. That's, I mean, enough said, right? Okay, simple enough. You can still kind of see through there. Again, not terribly worried about it, but that's enough for what we're doing. Right, now for this one. This, I've already cut a piece of tissue paper slightly larger than my drawer side. So this is like the perfect size that you want. If you have it too big, it's just going to make a mess. And if you do it too small, it's not gonna cover everything, obviously. Okay, so we'll set that off to the side. This is a dried version of that other drawer. I'm just going to take my sponge. It is already wet with the poly. You always want to start with a damp brush just because if you don't, it will absorb all the poly and it just wastes your stuff. So this is Chalk Mountain poly in their satin finish. I'm just throwing a little on there. It's in a convenient squeeze bottle, which I love for this. And then I'm just putting an even coat all over the whole drawer side. You want to make sure that you are getting all of your edges, because if lifting is going to occur, it's going to be there. Okay. Stick this back in our baggie so it doesn't dry out. Take our paper, line it up how you want it. Now you can start at one end and work to the other. You could start in the center. You kind of just have to get a feel for what you like doing. And I kind of run back and forth as I go down with my hand. And then once I get a good stick, I can kind of take my whole hand and smooth it down to finish. So if you just do this with your hands and push it down, you can get kind of a crepey finish. If you want something with a little more texture, that's just fine. This will still stick. It will still look awesome, but with a little bit more texture if that's something that you like. Now, if you want to get rid of texture, mind you, you can't completely get rid of texture, but if you'd like to get rid of most of it, you can use a brayer and just push really hard, and it will kind of smooth out the tissue paper. Kind of make sure you're getting the edges down. Again, you could just do this with your fingers. It doesn't really matter. Just kind of depends on the finish that you want. Okay. Now you can kind of see, you can still see a little bit of wood grain through here and just a little bit of the white. That's just fine with me. If you wanted something a little more opaque, then you'd want to do full coverage of your paint underneath. Okay, we'll get that one out of the way while it's setting up drying a bit. This is the next one. It's been done for a bit, so the poly is, I wouldn't say it's all the way dry, but it's mostly dry. So now, to get rid of the edges, for a really clean finish, you can take a sanding sponge and you want to run it away from the drawer. And as you can see, it's just completely tearing this off in such a lovely, lovely, nice, clean cut. And it's just a little bit of sandpaper. This one is a 120. It's actually probably like 220 by now because it's been used. If you do this while the paper is still really wet, really saturated from the poly, you run the risk of tearing it. So you do want to give it just a couple minutes. Like I said, this isn't completely dry, but it's dry enough that it's not tearing my paper as I go. So this edge here is coming just a little slower here because there's kind of a bevel. So it's not a sharp angle to rub it against, but it just takes a little bit longer there, and that's fine. Okay, so we've got a clean edge all the way around. Should get up any pieces that are trying to hang on. Perfect. And then we're just gonna go back to our poly. Just squeeze a little bit on there. Take our brush, and we're just sealing it in. Again, making sure I get all the edges really well to make sure they stay down. I'm cleaning up any drips that are happening because they inevitably happen. Inevitably, wow, impressive. Okay. And that is it. That is your drawer side done, all fancy and lovely. And it really takes your pieces up a notch. I love them. You just wait till this dries and then you can throw it in. If you'd like to give it some extra durability, you could do a couple more coats of poly if it makes you feel better. But that's it. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.